Hey there, David Corson, Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine, publisher editor. Thanks for finding us on the web and chiming in. It's a rainy day here in Atlanta. We had a sun the other day, but it rained all last week and the rain's back. But we will take the water because we want the lakes to be full in the spring and summer. So thanks for finding us on the web and finding a little time right before the holidays to talk about women in construction. And that's what our discussion is on today. Our topic is headwinds and tailwinds and some of the issues that go along with that topic. I've got three great ladies that are joining me today. I've got an architect, I've got an engineer, and I have a contractor, and all leaders in their field. And with that said, I'm going to allow each one of them to introduce themselves. So I'm going to go over to Miss Tonya Byrd. She's with Gilbane. And Tonya, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to share this platform with all of you. Excited about talking about women in construction. Again, my name is Tonya Byrd. I serve as Business Development Manager for Gilbane Building Company. I've been in the construction industry for almost 20 years, which is unbelievable. I think it is,
Cha-ching.
I know, one of the most amazing industries to be in. My background is marketing, and I translated it over from financial to construction and migrated up to marketing, client service, and business development. And no day is alike. I think that's one of the most amazing things about our industry. And I am simply here to add some value and hopefully help another female become better in our industry and to encourage others to join this amazing industry. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
All right, welcome. Our next panelist is Miss Faith Hoople, right? And she's with GreenbergFarrow Architecture. And Faith, say hello to our audience out there.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Faith Hoople with GreenbergFarrow Architecture and Engineering. Super happy to be here and thrilled to be in conversation with our panelists today. I have been in the industry for only about a decade, not quite as long as the other women here, and have kind of spanned all the letters of AEC. So I worked for a general contracting firm, engineering firm, as well as my current position with GreenbergFarrow in architecture. And it was the first time in my career that I really worked in an industry that was so male-dominated. And I've loved every minute of it, but I'm excited and have always been passionate about talking about increasing representation for women, some of the challenges, hopefully mentoring and helping other women continue to be successful in our field. And I'm just honored to be here with these ladies.
Well, thank you so much, Faith. And our engineer, Merissa Gamba, excuse me. I got it right?
You got it right.
Yeah. The floor is yours. Tell us your story.
So my name is Merissa Gamba, and I work for Uzun+Case, and we're a structural engineering firm. And I've spent my whole career doing structural engineering. I'm a principal at the firm. I'm a licensed professional engineer and structural engineer. I'm excited to be here today. It's definitely a great and important topic. So, like I said, happy to be here.
Welcome. So our topic is headwinds and tailwinds, and we've got a few questions that will go around the room. For those of you that are out there in the virtual side thing on the web, if you can keep yourself muted, but if you have something, you can break in and if you have a burning desire to get into the conversation, but we will have a little Q&A at the end after we get through. So if you can hold it till then, that would be great. But if you need something, just come in and Sam will let you in and ask your question. So with that said, our first topic, just looking at it, much progress has been made over the last decade with women, being underrepresented in the AEC industry. And we'll just go around the room this way, and then we'll make our way the other way as we go through. So, Tonya, what are your thoughts on that?
On the Can we talk about the 5 W's of who, what, when, how, and why?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know we don't have enough time on this podcast for
Yeah.
that, but I'd like to say the underrepresentation is definitely a challenge in our industry because just as a whole, our workforce development and what the future looks like in our industry, we are in trouble, I think, certainly in general, but especially in the sector of women and minorities in our industry. This is not, I guess, presented to those as a sexy occupation to be in. It is one that can be quite challenging due to the nature of the beast of multiple parties, multiple areas of collaboration, multiple entities involved. But I think it is a prime industry for women to be in because of our ability to have a creative brain, to have the ability to do multiple things at the same time, our ability to be precise, to be accurate, to be engaging, to be one, as we do in other areas in our life, to be the lead in collaboration and bringing people together for thought leadership. So I think one reason of the underrepresentation is, number one, women who are in construction not reaching out to those who are not in construction and sharing with them the plethora of opportunities that are in our industry. We are not tooting our horn loud enough. We are not reaching back enough to bring others up. And then the other caveat, because it is a male-dominated industry, men are not doing the same. They are reaching out to their counterparts who looks like them, walks like them. They're engaged in, tennis, the country club. And so women ordinarily are not in those places, in those spaces, to hear and to know about opportunities. So I think that has led to the undercurrent of women not being open to being in the industry because it is viewed as a male-dominated industry. But there is a place for us where we can certainly add value on all sides, architect, engineering, and certainly construction. So hopefully after this podcast today, lights will come on and they will see the pathway that is available to them all, where they can join us on the wild side and have an amazing career and opportunity to do some amazing things in our industry. So as the saying goes, each one reach one. I think that's how we can help each other. And just tell your story, which is what we're here to do today. So,
All right, thanks so much. That was awesome. Faith, would you like to expand on that?
Absolutely. I loved all your points, Tonya, and I think that we have made progress in representation of women in construction across all architecture, engineering, and the general contracting construction worlds. Having said that, there are still barriers, and they are, as you alluded to, sometimes the global we, call upon people who look like us or are very similar to us. And it's incumbent upon women and men to break that cycle. There is a tremendous opportunity in an industry that is suffering from a lack of humans to do the work. And if we are able to recruit and retain women in our industry, it will go a long way to ensuring the vibrancy and vitality and to be able to continue to do what we do well. So I think it's in all of our best interest to, I love what you said, for each of us to reach out and reach back and pull people along with us. And there's a lot of benefit not only to our industry, but I think it's a great way to make a living, whether you have a degree in engineering or architecture, or whether you're a technical person, you just want to be out in the field and doing work with your hands. It is a great way to make a living, and we have to continue to communicate that to different audiences, women for sure, but also folks who might not be on college tracks, and we just want to be an inclusive industry.
Totally.
All right, very, very well said. Merissa?
I definitely agree with everything that both of you just said.
They took
I'm
your thunder.
not sure I
They
want to
took
go
your thunder.
third. Maybe I'll go first next time.
Yes.
But I will add that from the engineering and the kind of more the architecture side, even to some degree, the higher education required things. It's fascinating that there's actually more females in college now than there are males, but we are still a very small percentage of this field. So it's not that women aren't going to college and don't have the skills and capabilities. It's that they're choosing other things, and we have a huge lack of enough new talent. We need more people. And so I think it's really getting some more awareness so that people know that this is a great career. There's always going to be opportunities. Even if it's not new buildings, there's going to be old buildings being renovated. There is a life cycle to places that it's super important that we have the skill set to keep these places vibrant, whether it is new or whether it is renovated.
Yeah. We had our little discussion before we started. I took a look at our circulation for the magazine, and I had a board member, a female, on my editorial board. She says, "Why don't you have more women on your editorial board? Why don't you do just a women event?" So I actually took a look at the circulation, and I found out that in general, the women population in construction is low. But when I looked at my circulation, I had a lot of women on there, and so we, created the women's column, and we did our own separate women's retreat. And what the most amazing thing is that I asked the same questions. And I had a men's retreat and I have a women's retreat. Same gig, same questions, completely different answers. And I can tell you, I have a much better time with the women because there's too much testosterone in the with the men in there. Nothing against you guys out there, out in the web listening, but I'm just saying that there's egos in there and this and that. The women, they're just, they're multitaskers. Like I said, men are wired differently than women. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get business done today, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So you really need to know how to communicate, and not everybody's gonna, do things the same way, but you have to be open to new ideas. And if you look back, like at World War II, it wasn't just men fighting the war. Without women, we wouldn't have gotten where we were today. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing that I can say is that the sandbox is there, but as a woman, if you want to get into construction, you have to take the leap. They're not. Men are. Some men will reach out, but in general, you're going to have to take that first step to get out there. But the opportunity is there. We're short on labor. We're short on PM, superintendents. I can go down the list. I don't know how many engineering, architecture, contractor, even brands that I've talked to in the last 2 years that said they've had some of their best years of their firms, and that they would have built more stores, or they would have done more projects, but they didn't want to bite off more than that they could chew and not be able to have the labor to get it done.
Absolutely.
And right now, my quest, I'm working with Stanley. They have this thing called Rock the Trades, where you can become an ambassador and you can go out to the schools and plant that seed. Yes. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but if you can get just a couple of those people to think about it in like 7th or 8th grade, or maybe they're in early high school, to go into the trades versus doing the 4-year program or just hanging out and doing whatever, it's going to help the industry. The sum is always bigger than the whole, and we want the boys to go think about it as too. But in general, go in there and say, hey, you can do this. Experience teaches you things. Everybody makes mistakes on both, whether you're a man or a female, but we need help for this industry. And there's a labor shortage. People don't want to work. But the ones that do, there are a lot of jobs out there for you here. And construction, you can make a lot of money, you can have a great career, and you can pass it down to other things. And I'm going to bridge that, going into our next question with talking about ways that we can mentorship with women in general and retaining that talent and not having them leave the field and being whatever reasons that they decided maybe this isn't for me, maybe they had the wrong kind of boss or so forth. So I'm going to go around this way, and Merissa, you're up.
I think mentorship and retentionship is a super important and challenging topic. I mean, we talk about it in my firm a lot. We have definitely had issues retaining female engineers, no question about it. And I don't have a good answer. I wish I did, because I've lost female engineers who I would love to still have working for me. And they often are going, it's not that they're going to a competitor, it's that they are going to a different field. One of our best engineers went to become a college professor. Oddly enough, during COVID, we had a young woman go to become an organic farmer. So we're talking totally different world. But I don't know that it's necessarily solvable sometimes. I wish it was, but I do think it is potentially doing more mentorship and getting women more involved with senior women in their field, or even in ancillary fields. So maybe not exactly what you do in AEC, but going if you're the engineer doing more with the architect doing more with the contractor, and just kind of more cross collaboration and interaction.
I'll tell you, I do my podcast, and I try to split it up as much as possible. And publicists will reach out to me and they'll say, "Hey, I've got this great guy that can do this thing." I'm like, "Do you have a woman?" Because I really want, I don't want to have a man on my cover, and we try to keep it, the folio or the percentage of coverage in the magazine, men, women, and because we want to get both sides of what it is, because like I said, the mindset is different, and I'm very conscious of it when we're trying to figure things out. And just like on any of the events, I'd like to see a 50-50 split on there, whether it's in attendees or it's at our cocktail receptions that we do around the country, or events or virtual. We want to see those. We want to see that split. And but the biggest thing, once again, is it's just planting that seed. Maybe you say something that someone's they don't like their job, they don't like what they're doing, and they never even thought about becoming a welder, or becoming, or you don't even know. You might even just start being, a front office person at an engineering firm, and then you might think about, well, maybe I should go out there and learn stuff. I have one of my architects. She was a front office person, and now she's running the ADA firm. And I've known her for, I don't know, probably 20 years. But she started at the ground floor, and I can talk about a lot of these stories. There was another lady who was on my board. She's retired now, but she started in a hotel chain, and she used to clean. She was
housekeeper.
Housekeeper.
Right?
Thank you. I was, anyway. And now last time that I had her, she was the VP of construction, but she learned her way up. She saw how the operation, and little by little, she proved herself. And that's the way it should be with anybody, whether you're a man or female. But those opportunities, if you take the bull by the horns and you can go that route, the opportunity's there for you. So,
Absolutely.
Faith?
So I think one of the themes that comes up when we're talking about retaining women in our industry is the work-life balance. And it is, I will only speak for myself, vexing in the sense that I don't know why that's only an issue, or primarily an issue for women. We are, and perhaps that is changing as our millennials and Gen X or Gen Zs come up and really desire to have the quality of life that many folks in the pandemic period found out that they wanted to be an organic farmer or something along those lines. But I do think having the work-life balance issue is not just a female issue. It's a firm issue. It's a talent issue. And if we, as as an industry don't address that and don't make sure that we are operating in a way that is comfortable for women to do what they want in their lives, whether that's raising a family or making sure they're at a child's sports game or a recital or whatever it might be. We're gonna continue to lose that talent, which is such a drain on the system. It's absolutely a tragedy. But we need to get that conversation going at the highest levels. And I don't mean to cast aspersions, but many of the folks who are at the C-suite level for our firms came up in a different time, and they are tasked with keeping our talent, attracting talent, and they need to be involved in that conversation. I see you smiling, Merissa. Do you agree with me on that?
Oh, I find it sometimes a little amusing when we have conversations about retention and stuff, and you have people who are significantly older and did grow up in a different time, thinking they know what a 25-year-old wants.
Right.
And and I think we're all a little guilty of that.
Absolutely.
And obviously it's solved by reaching out and asking more, but there's a lot of assumptions that are made that aren't really necessarily what the current workforce desires.
I agree 100%. So I think it is an issue for women, but I really think it needs to be a global issue, particularly as we want to retain our talent. It's they put so much work and many years into obtaining degrees or work experience, and to lose them at such a significant rate is just a burden on our industry.
Tonya?
Yeah, a plethora of things are going on in my head. Twofold. I want to kind of get back to the education part that you talked about. Sometimes I think when we have global problems, we need to go back to the foundation of how we do things, and as they say, go back to the old landmark. We need to go back to career fairs, and you talked about 7th, 8th grade. Let's go back to 5th grade. Then we start grooming and implementing, and at each grade level, because in our industry, you may be great at math, so you can be an accountant in the construction industry, for a GC, for an architect, for an engineering firm. So sometimes our children only see the outside of, somebody, working 12 hours, in the rain, as a superintendent or as a brick mason or as a welder or, rebar. But there are so many different capacities and opportunities for people in our industry. And until we, as I say, tell the story, our children only see a limited span of what construction really is. But then not only discuss with them the opportunities, but really tell them the impact of how you can make a historical impact in the construction industry. Because I think one reason why it's so important for me to remain in this industry, not only being a woman, not only being an African American, but I know I'm making an impact when I engage with my clients, be it a K-12 facility or be it a healthcare facility. I am part of an opportunity for a child to be in an amazing space, to dream their craziest dream, to discover a plethora of opportunities of what could be in my life. So it's not just a school. I am helping a child become greater than they ever thought. We're providing amazing learning opportunities, amazing learning spaces for that student. That's impactful. That's something you can't do and be in a lot of industries. If we're building a healthcare facility, that's a place for healing, for people to be whole again, for families to be reunited. So I think our industry provides something that so many industries don't. We don't tell that side of the story. And I think if we combine with the plethora of opportunities, how you can make an amazing living, but how you can be a part to develop a community where your children can be something that they didn't think they could be, where they can transcend in a different space of just being a doctor or a lawyer or being an NBA player or NFL player. That you are being. If we look at all of our historical places, they're fascinating. The architect, the creative minds to build something amazing. That's a possibility that you could do. We don't tell that side of it. So I think if we tell that, to me, that's sexy. That's inspiring. That's courageous. Yes, it's hard work, but at the end, we'll be able to be a part of something that will last beyond us, that other people can enjoy and experience because I collaborated with you. I collaborated with you. That's a story worth telling. And then the other part of that, you talk about retention. I think about it, women, I'm going to say that part of it is certainly on us, the burden, as we move in this industry. But why are we not negotiating when we are, looking for other opportunities in our industry? Men certainly negotiate when they get jobs, but yet we don't. They negotiate getting their, golf, country club membership paid for annually. They negotiate a car allowance. They negotiate, vacation. Why are we not negotiating if we have children to get, okay, maybe I don't get a car allowance. Maybe you're paying me part of my child care. Maybe you're paying me. Why are we not negotiating those things that are valuable to us? We have every right to. Who says we can't? Where is that written? But why don't we have the courage to do that, to negotiate what our values are? When I went to, I'm on my second term or second construction company in my 20-year history. But at my first organization, what was important to me, my children were young. So I knew going in I was going to take less money in salary form because my priority were my children. I'm not going to be able to commit to certain things because my children had played travel ball, volleyball, and basketball. So I'm not going to go to certain conferences because you already know that my children are a priority. So that was a negotiation because that was the value that I needed. If I'm going to work for this organization, this is what I can do and this is what I can't do. And if we're willing to agree on that, hey, I'm going to knock it out the ballpark, because I know you're going to support me. You're not going to be upset with me when I have to leave, when I can't go, because you already know, because I've negotiated. I give you value, and the value that I'm asking you back is you respect my place with my family and with my children. So I think we need to stand up and speak so our voices can be heard, and sometimes we fall back and feel like we don't have a voice to negotiate what is really important to us. Therefore, we can have the appropriate balance, as you say, in work, in life, and in play, because everything is communicated, because everything is negotiable. Who says it can't? Because if you don't want to negotiate with me, I will find someone who will. Oh, yeah. And I think we have to have the courage to have that conversation and then be okay with the consequences of that, because it is our life, our destiny, and what brings us joy to be the best that we can be. And in that, the employee that you want, really, that is who you want. So why wouldn't you negotiate that to have the best?
I was just going to say, I read a whole thing about that, not specific to the construction industry, but basically attributing the lower pay of females in comparable jobs to the men, not actually to any ill will of the employer or anything, but that women don't actually speak up and negotiate or state that they need more money, whereas men go into a review and they say, I need a 10% raise this year. And that is some of that's just who females are. I do think in the construction industry, it may be a little bit worse because usually who you're having that conversation with is a male, whereas maybe somebody who is a nurse or a teacher where there is a higher female percentage, they might be more willing to openly communicate and with another female over a male who's 20 years older than them.
I love the word you used, courage, because it is about being brave and courageous. And I think perhaps that is a way that we and other women can be leaders, is to be the role model there in that aspect of being courageous.
And to help one another to be, as you talked about earlier, to be brave and to be courageous, because it can be fearful when we are operating and trying to become the best and to add value in the place and the space that we've been granted, and to overcome obstacles and to change those obstacles into opportunities. You know, we always talk about it takes a village for children, but it takes a village to live, to be in this world. It takes all of us to be together, to advance and to move the needle to whatever space that we occupy in life. It takes us collectively having this conversation, and, you know, 5 years from now, somebody will pull up this podcast and listen and be like, wow, they were really, you know, speaking my language and talking, and I can see how, you know, things have changed and evolved. But you know, it takes all of us to move the needle forward. But we've got to do one thing, which sometimes we always fall back, is we fall back, we move out into the shadows because we're afraid of the light of what could be. And who says we ever have to be afraid of being who we are destined to be?
Absolutely.
My thing is, if you don't know, ask. And
Yes.
then you'll know where you stand.
Yeah.
You know, and what's the worst that can happen? You're gonna get no.
Yeah.
I mean, I get no all day long.
Yeah.
So
never killed anybody. I don't know anybody who's dead
So
because of
95% of me is negotiable.
Yes.
But there's 5% that's not. And pretty
And
much
that's okay.
And that's right. Being honest. You lie to me. But everything else is negotiable with me. However, when you were talking about some of the people that you probably interviewed with over the years, that they're old school. And I can look back at junior high, before I went to boarding school. You had shop class for the guys.
Oh, yeah.
And you had home ec. I guess that's
sewing and cooking.
Yeah, sewing and cooking. Okay, so why don't they? Now they got rid of all of it in the schools today. So if they bring it back, they should merge and have both women and men in the shop class, and put both of them. If they're gonna have a home ec, make them both go to both.
Yes.
I look at like the Israeli army. Everybody's got to go in 2 years, whether you're male or female. You got to go into the military. It builds your character. It gives you patriotism for your country. But it's that same concept of putting everybody together, because you see how guys do it, you see how men do it, but you're still doing the same thing. And the biggest thing is, like I said, my son. We were talking before. My son wanted to go to tech school. But there weren't that many women, girls trying to get in there. So he was competing with a lot of other guys that were his age. But bottom line is, I looked at them and I said, hey, you need to have more. You need to bring the shop class back. And if you're going to do it, you need to have both male and women and boys. Call them whatever you want. They all need to be together, because
everyone eats.
Yep.
And everyone needs to repair something at some point, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So well said, Miss Byrd.
indeed.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we're going to move into tailwinds and representation, and getting into maybe some touchy subjects, with harassment and those kind of things, where men might not get it as much as the females will on the women's side of things. And I'm sure you've all experienced it, or know that it goes on. So I'm going to start with Faith.
Sure. Again, I do think that we've made a lot of progress. We have many more women in construction and all the AEC fields than we ever have, and we need to do more. On the kind of the side that prevent some women from coming into a male-dominated field, and or have some of them leave because of behavior that is not ideal. The three words that you can just remember forever is, don't be creepy. Don't be creepy. And you will have a great relationship with all of your employees, male and female. My husband works for a really large company, and they do regular seminars on that type of topic. And he told me that. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. Just don't be creepy. Just treat me well. Treat me like you would any other colleague, and we'll do great things together.
Merissa?
I think that harassment's an issue in absolutely every field and walk of life now. And so there's nothing magical that's going to remove that from the construction industry. But I do think it's kind of tied to it, but not exactly, is some of this just gender bias that still exists. And
Yes.
I actually have a quick story about that. And like I
Sure, go
said, this
ahead.
isn't harassment, but I think it's worthwhile. I was on a construction site, hard hat, boots, reviewing rebar, and there's still not many females actually out on a construction site. And I had a male engineer who worked for me. I was his boss. I'm significantly senior of him. And we're up there, and the contractor is talking to him, not me. And I felt
Assumed.
bad for the guy who worked for me, because he was super uncomfortable. He was
Yes.
like, kind
You
of
could
going,
see it. He was
you
uncomfortable.
could see that he was uncomfortable, and he's
I'm not
trying
the
to go
boss.
like talk to her. And
Yeah, she's going to write the check.
and obviously it worked out. It was fine. And the person who was doing it meant no ill will. It was an older gentleman, and I really just think it was unconscious. And I'm not saying that is harassment by any means. It's just that it kind of falls in that category of things that happen to women that don't happen to men.
Yes.
So I just think that there is progress to be made, as there always is. And I think as more females are out on construction sites, and this was a bit ago, and I had an even worse experience when I was younger, but more people who are out there, the less things like that will happen.
Correct. And do you think that it's incumbent on women to speak up in those situations, because it can feel very uncomfortable, and many of our norms are not to make others feel uncomfortable, right?
So in that case, I would have had no problem to a certain degree if it was a different individual who was doing it, to go, hey, I'm the engineer of record here. This is a deal, and just
Right.
cutting it off. Honestly, in that particular case, it was like an old nice man. I didn't really feel particularly a need to.
Right.
But I do think you were correct that, and even if it's a harassment situation, is speaking up. Not letting something continue on. With just stating, hey, I'm not okay with this.
Yeah, give me the respect. I earned this title,
Right.
and I'm the one that's going to, take the fall if anything goes wrong. It's not going to be him. And, if you had to do it over, would you have spoken up?
Not in that particular
Not
case.
that
But
one?
like I said, I think,
If it was negative.
if it was negative, I think if it was a younger individual, there's no question that I would have spoken up. I just didn't see the need. But
Yeah. Now it's
no harm, no foul. I don't. It didn't upset me.
well, like I said, some of these gentlemen that are in these positions, they're just not used to dealing with a female that's, that's 110 pounds, soaking wet with boots on, and he's 6'4" and this big burly dude, and that they look at. I had a lady, I should say. She's young. She's probably 21, 22. Anyway, she's a flooring installer out of New York. She was on my podcast, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And she went to tech school, learned, figured out flooring was her gig. And she leads her crew. And they're working on high rises in New York. And they're doing the flooring. Anyway, the elevator only could hold 2,500-pound pallets, so they could bring the product up, from the ground up to the higher stories. Anyway, the pallets that they sent were 3,500 pounds. So they had to get all the grout and whatever off the pallets. So she's maybe 100 pounds soaking wet. And she's a little thing. Anyway, she's grabbing these things, and these guys, she told me the story. She goes, these guys on the site were like, look at that girl over there, man. She's slinging all this stuff, and they said, well, do you want some help? And she said, nah, listen, someone's got to do it. I'm the lead here. I'm going to get it done. And so, one by one, the guys started to get over there and stuff. But the one thing that she said was that her crew, she built her respect, and they know she's the lead, and that if anything went on, they would back her up. They're in the foxhole with her, and that's the mentality. But she had to earn it. The same thing if there was a guy there doing the same thing. You have to earn these things. And if you don't speak up, and if there's, but you have to prove yourself. It's like just trying to make you go through I'll put it in sports analogies since I'm a coach. You go through the rec school, rec. Everybody gets playing time and everything else. And then it's a shock when you get into the high school because only the best players play. Right. And not everybody makes the varsity. And if you do make the varsity, only the best players play because it's
only 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's one of it's just the generality that, hey, and this whole thing about, everybody should get a trophy. I think that's, men, it's the worst thing that ever goes on. And but talking to this, her name was Abby, and I think it was called Flooring Resource. But it was a great story. And it was just, she said, look, I had to get the thing done because we were on schedule and they wanted to get the building done. And so she, sweated her tail off and, moving that stuff herself. And then one by one, they, got stuff on the elevator. But those things are going to happen. The product comes in. Well, I guess I'm going to have to roll up my sleeves and get it done. And you got to do what you got to do. So I think that was well said. Tonya?
One thing I want to piggyback and talk about briefly is just on the harassment part. And I think naturally women should speak up for sure. But I think it's more importantly when you're in the office on a job site or wherever you are, if another male hears another male being inappropriate to a female, I think it is his duty, his honor, just human decency. He should speak up and say, hey, dude, that was totally inappropriate. Don't do that. That's, hey, you can back, stuff can happen. So I think, if there is more of that, it would certainly be minimized. It's, harassment going to be, completely done away on a construction site? Absolutely not. Because there are women who harass men in the industry as well. So it's, vice versa. Some of us have, tougher skin. If somebody says something to me inappropriately, certainly I'm going to deal with them very directly and let them know. But other people are not as direct. And I find, and it goes like kind of what you talked about, an unconscious bias. Because you don't know me, you don't know what's appropriate. So therefore, if we are working together, it is important for you to get to know who you're working with. And then you will know how far to joke, how far to take the joke, how far to where something may be offensive to someone, because what offends me may not offend you, and vice versa. So it goes back to, when you're on a job site, everybody kumbaya, let's get to know and talk, and then you'll get a feel and you'll know. But, as you said earlier, just being kind and respectful to everybody, that's the least you can do. What you do in your own home is, your business or whatever. But if you're in an environment and someone is paying you to do a job, the least you can do is exhibit some basic humanity, is be kind and be nice and respectful. And Absolutely. I think if we go back to that foundational thing, I think that will be very, very helpful for sure. And, the old adage is, Because it used to be, women got catcalls because they wore heels and they wore skirts. Well, we're not wearing heels and skirts on a construction site. So what's the excuse? We're all geared up and looking ugly, with vest on,
We're looking
boots.
safe. We are
I think
looking
you all
safe.
look cool
Yeah,
there.
we're
Come on, I
looking.
got no problem with it.
Yeah, so saying inappropriate thing, and and you talk about unconscious bias. There are a plethora of ethnicities on a job site. Just don't. It's not necessary to say stuff about people, about their culture. Just talk about you if you want to talk about somebody, and then everything is fine. Talk about you, and then you won't offend other people. But don't talk about me because I'm African American. Don't talk about somebody else because they are a Jew or it's because somebody is Hispanic. That's not you. So talk about what you know and what you do, and everything is good.
It can go the spring. There's a sitcom called The King of Queens.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So one of the episodes is Doug goes up. They're doing construction around the corner, and he wants to make his wife feel good. So he bribes the construction guys to do some catcalling. So anyway, she finds out about it, and then she goes back to the construction site and tells him, "Hey, I know what my husband did. I want you to just, give it back to him."
Yeah.
So then they start calling him, "Hey, you're overweight and all this stuff." I mean,
Yeah.
but it's am I right? Yeah. It's that same gig.
Yeah.
And so it goes both ways.
I like it.
And I always like to say, look, whenever there's a harassment thing or any of that kind of stuff, there's two sides to every story, and that's one of the things that I think that. Even I don't want to get political or any of that kind of stuff, but the bottom line is you got to find out everything because that's a serious charge on either side, and it's got to be fair because a lot of men can get they didn't do what they did, but being accused, but then it can go the other way too. So you always have to find out. It's just like if someone broke the window when my kid was growing up. Okay, who did it? No one. Well, I'm going to find out. So someone's got to be, and just tell me. I'd rather know the whole story, not half the story. So I can make a rational decision if someone needs to, be reprimanded or whatever it might be. And in the military, they don't care. It's the reality of it. So I come from a military family, so I was brought up, with that mentality. We raise the flag every morning, we fold it up, sit down dinners, and so I kind of have that. Like I said, 95% that I do is negotiable, but there's 5%, my values are not. You got to treat women right. You got to treat people right. Don't lie. When you don't know something, don't fake it. And, everything else, we can discuss rationally as professionals. So, but all very well said. And listen, it's a very touchy subject.
But we got to talk about it, though.
Yeah, and
you can't bury
and
it.
you could say it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Exactly. It is the elephant in the room. No question.
So we got a couple minutes. So here's what I want to do. We'll have one little question, then we'll do our one positive thought, and then we'll open it up to our listeners out there. What do you think some of the best ways might, you're all in different sectors, but I want you to give one cool success story that you've kind of seen, within your career, maybe with your company or with an end user that you've, but something of that you've seen that a success story for women in the sector. So I'll start with you, Merissa.
I would say just that lately I have done more projects with high-level senior project managers that are females. And,
there you go.
I just finished a big project at 760 Ralph McGill Boulevard. They just got their CO recently. I was the engineer of record, the senior project manager, the next down project manager who was in charge of construction were both females. And those are just roles that I haven't really seen females in the past. So I think that's really exciting.
All right. Faith?
That's brilliant. I guess I would just refer to my current company. We have probably about 22% of our design and engineering workforce is women, and we have 4 senior leaders who are women, and they are rock stars. They are amazing at what they do. They are relationship builders throughout the company and with clients, obviously. And it makes a huge difference to be able to see women in leadership roles. And that's not a personal story, but for my company, it's really inspiring.
Tonya?
Definitely. I concur with both of those comments. But since I'm on the GC side, and naturally, our company has been quite intentional in women leadership, and that was one of the caveats. And part of my interview process for me to engage with women who were in leadership in different time and capacities and breadth and depth within our organization, and to see their path and obstacles and et cetera. But just in a whole, I am amazed at the women who are starting their own construction company. And I think that is just the craziest, sexiest thing you could possibly do.
Absolutely.
Women. And when I see a female not just named to get the MBE or any certification, but they are leading, they are running it, they are managing, they are growing and developing and bringing up others. That is absolutely exciting to me to see women still operating in a courageous spirit to do something that historically has been a male-dominated industry. So for all of you out there who started your own organization, especially in the AEC industry, kudos to you. So I celebrate all of those who are brave enough to,
Be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And to know that they can make a difference in our world today. So that's exciting.
See, I told you I back up everything I do. I practice what I preach. You will play as you practice. So myself, coming up with my next issue, I have this thing called Commercial Construction Renovation Women and Commercial Construction Renovation Men. I do 4 profiles of top people that have been in the industry, and I think the ladies' nominations this year, I've got a masonry person, an iron worker, there's a brand in there, and I think there's an architect. And the men, the same kind of split. But the bottom line is, when you look at the women, you would never expect them to do what they were doing, And some of these companies have been around like 100 years, and they've maybe their grandfather started, but they've taken it to the next level. And so I think when these nominations come up, I'm kind of like I have to take a look because I want the right mix. But when I get the stories, I'm like, I'll get it from the publicist. I won't even have to reach out. I'll get a publicist who will send me a press release. I'm like, that person I'm gonna profile because I like the whole story. So all really anyway, take a look. It's coming up in the next issue when I post it up right after New Year. So, well, let's finish up. I always do my podcast with one positive thought or phrase to leave with our audience out there. So, Tonya, we'll start with you. We'll go around. So if there's one positive thought or phrase that you want to leave for everybody that's out there that's going to watch this recording or see it in the magazine, what would that thought be?
Oh my gosh, I have so many that roll around in this brain of mine. But this is just, I think I'm a firm believer of what you do personally, you will translate that professionally. You can't do things professionally if you don't do it personally. So just in general in life, be a rainbow in someone else's cloud. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Colorful.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Faith?
Yes, so I am stealing a phrase from Brene Brown, one of my favorite authors and researchers and podcasters, and that is be awkward, brave, and kind.
Excellent.
Merissa?
So I'm going to go with one that I try to live by, which is just to find your joy. And everybody's joy is different, so find what's yours.
Love that.
Well, mine is mindset, and get rid of the negativity. If you're surrounded with people that are negative, get rid of them. Surround yourself with people that are positive, people that smile. I just took a 12-week boot camp becoming a certified digital marketer. I'm digital magazine, blah blah blah. So I thought I knew it all. Anyway, I learned so much about myself. But the biggest thing that they taught, and this was a 3-hour class once a week, homework, and it was like going back to school. But the biggest thing that that they taught you was mindset, and it's a journey, and that you're not going to succeed if you have negativity, and if you don't have that can-do spirit. You know that you're going to make mistakes, but you got to try, and to be successful, you got to have that drive, that grit, that desire, and men and women can both have that. And what made it really going, there were about 1,000 people on this boot camp. I did it on a Friday night, Saturday, and a Sunday. But the biggest thing was there were about 1,000 people on this call, all walks of life. I mean, some people didn't even know how to reduce their computer screen. And I'm saying that they're not going to make it. but you know what? Those are the guys who are going to be the millionaires because they're going to have the drive, And here I am, I got digital magazine. I know about clicks and all this stuff. But it was an amazing transformation. So now we've all gone through the group. So now my group stays together. And we all take turns leading it. But there's more women in the group than men. And I think the women that are in that group are probably going to be more successful than the guys that are in there. And I just think that you got to get rid of the negativity. If you got negativity, it's like cancer. You got to get rid of it. And if you're doing work with someone, if you're in a bad relationship, or just you're running with the wrong crowd, you got to cut those people loose. Surround yourself with people. We always talk about the sandbox. If you want to let someone in the construction sandbox and they're negative, don't get in that sandbox. Go find another one because there's plenty of them out there. So that's my things. Mindset. My newsletter is called Mindset Spark Recharge. So that's kind of my newsletter that I've built. But anyway, go find the sandbox that you're going to be welcome in, that you can have fun in, and then and learn in. So, well, with that said, Sam. Are there any questions out there out on the internet webland with any of the attendees that are still logged in? Does anybody have any questions out there that would like to ask our panelists before we say goodbye? We've got a couple of minutes.
We're hopping
So
just
just
wanna say,
you got to
Faith,
come
it's
off
great
mute
to
so we
see
can
your
hear you
face.
if you want to ask your question. So make sure you're off mute.
Cynthia Ortiz says, Faith, it is great to see your face.
All right,
Such
Cynthia,
delight,
you made it.
Cynthia.
That's good. She told me she was running late, so good, you made it. Are there
My
any
meeting
other
got
questions
rescheduled,
out there
so I
that
was
you'd
able
like to
to
ask our
hop in.
panelists? I see Paul sitting up there. Come on, Paul. You got anything to say up there in Jersey?
Yeah, well, yes,
You got to
uh,
take
get off
yourself off mute, Paul.
I believe I believe I am. I should be off
What's that?
mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have to put
Oh,
your
okay.
headphones
Oh,
on.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
there's
go
so
out.
many things I could say
I'll pop him on here real quick.
after hearing all this. Well, I guess a couple of things that came out. Something you said at the beginning, Dave, was men and women were wired differently.
Mm-hmm.
So we do see things differently. We approach things differently. That's just normal, and it doesn't mean that one or the other can't. I don't see any difference. Women,
I
do
don't
see a
either.
difference. Women, I don't know. You get them on something, they're much more dogged about it at times. They really want to get to the bottom of things. I guess the one thing I'm going to say is somebody mentioned how male-dominated this industry is, and it still is to a point. But I guess I'm of an age where I remember every industry was male-dominated.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say this is the next one that's going to be freed, if you will, and brought up into more of a year 2022 and beyond. There's changes. I've seen them over the years. I go back to, 25, 30 years ago where women were just part of the landscape at any type of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Conference or what have you. They were there. They were there to hand things out. Now they're in charge
Mm-hmm.
many times. But why not? And it doesn't bother most of us. It really doesn't. But I could go on and tell you all this stuff, but you don't have time to hear all my stuff. And Dave knows that. He knows you better shut this guy up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to say is everything was male dominated at one time, and that's certainly changed.
That's a big question.
I can tell you in our office, we've changed in that I'm obviously one of the older people that will eventually be gone. We've had a lot of people retire, et cetera, because of pandemic. And as we've replaced people coming out of school or young people from other architectural firms, it's about 60% women now. in
Mhm.
our office.
That's a good figure.
A young woman went to school for architecture. So it's here. It's just it's here. It's just that they haven't gotten to that point yet in their careers. So in any case, I wanted to sit in. I actually just quickly too. We sent this out to so many women in our firm, hoping they would sit in.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good learning experience for them too, especially the younger ones, but also to meet people that have been in the industry that are same sex, I'll say, as they are, and have the same thoughts.
You can't
Right.
take the horse to the trough and make him drink. So if they can't log
No.
in, it is what it is. So,
So
Paul,
obviously,
it's good to see you.
Good seeing you. Thank
Yeah,
you. This
good to
is
see
great.
you, young man.
Thank you. You too.
If I may, I actually had a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
please.
So much of how women in business is so much of that seems to be reactionary. Like, oh, there has been a harassment case. We are now responding to this case, and that seems to be the conversation that we have ad nauseum. What are ways that businesses, construction, all these fields where, perhaps now it's less so, but in history it's been male dominated, how can we be more proactive and minimizing these things happening moving forward?
I'll respond. I think that amazingly, while we may think it's just readily apparent what is correct and not correct, it is not to people. And so I really do think that as much as people might roll their eyes at it, that there is some level of training. And I actually think that training should start in high school, not in the work world.
Life skills.
That there's just some life skills that I don't think are being portrayed to young individuals, and what we think, oh, they'll just know that it's not okay to whatever, that they just don't. And until, I say that high schools should have a life lessons class.
Yes.
They should learn how to
Balance
balance
a
a
checkbook.
checkbook. Checkbook.
There you go.
How credit works, interest, all these things that we do every day, and instead they learn calculus and they don't know how, overdraft fees work. But with that, they also don't know how to behave correctly in a workplace.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you there.
Appropriate work ethic.
So if there's not any other questions out there, Sam, if there's not, if anybody's out there would like to get in touch with these ladies and, if they're looking for, ideas or way that they might be able to implement it or tell some of their friends, I'll start with you, Tonya. How would someone get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Tonya Byrd, TonyaByrd. I'd be happy to connect.
Yeah. Send her an invite or message, and LinkedIn's the best place to be. For not only you got to be on there because that's where everybody is. Faith?
Absolutely. Absolutely the same. Faith Hoople, GreenbergFarrow would be delighted to connect in any way.
And Merissa?
And once again, the same vote for LinkedIn, Merissa Gamba, and it's Uzun+Case.
For those of you who want to get at me, you can find me on LinkedIn. But listen, you can email me at davidc@ccr-mag.com. That's where I found everybody else. So, I answer them all. I try to get to you. So just be patient with me. But great discussion. So hey, everybody, give yourselves a hand.
Thank you for
It was
inviting us.
awesome.
Thank you to
We're
amazing women.
We're gonna cover this in the next issue. It'll post right after New Year's. So that's where we'll put this on. And I hope everybody out there that logged in can take, these things, it's like the magazine. As a publisher, I want someone to read the whole magazine. And if they can take one thing from it, that I did my job. So the same things with this. It was an hour long. If you can find one thing and go take it to your company and, improve the relations between, the male and female, whatever the percentages are. I want you to know that Paul said that his, he's old school. He said it was definitely male dominated, but now, it's probably 60-40, in favor, and every day it gets better. So there is traction out there, but listen, ladies, you got to speak up.
Yes.
Okay, and if you want to get in here, you're gonna have to get your hands dirty. You're gonna have to put the boots on. If you want to be out in that, in the construction world, you can be in the front office and all that stuff. But I always, once again, I go back to sports. In lacrosse, there's the goalie, there's the offense, and there's defense. They're all different size sticks. So when my son was playing, I always said, look, you will be an asset if you want to play in college. You need to know how to do all of those sticks, okay? Because you might practice one thing, and when you get to school, the coach is going to say, you're going to play here, okay? So, and it could be, basketball, women, football. I always like talking out because it's winning and losing, and then those athletes transition to the business world. And let me tell you, ladies and men, if you haven't known, it's pretty vicious out there. So if you don't have thick skin and you can't rumble and you can't take it, you better learn how to do it, because that's the only way you're going to succeed. And when you prove yourself and you show that you can hold yourself up at 110 pounds to a guy that's 6'4" and 240, and you can handle yourself in a conversation, that battle's over. Once you gain that respect, it's like punching a bully in the face, and he'll never do it again. So anyway. That's my final thought. Thank you so much. For all of you out there, thank you so much for logging in. And got next week's Christmas. You got New Year's. Do yourself a favor. Recharge your battery. Have fun. Spend time with family and friends. Don't talk politics. And go into 2023. It's going to be a wild and crazy year. There's so much going on. Every day I get up, I'm mentally drained by the time I have to go to bed and catch a couple Z's. So, but be positive, smile, get rid of the negativity, positive mindset, and you'll enjoy yourself so much better. So once again, ladies, Merissa, Faith, Tonya, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
to all
Thank
of
you.
you out there on the web. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much. And Sam, you were awesome. Love the tech guy.
Amazing.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam, great job. So everybody, we will see you later. Signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Great to see you, Paul. See you later.
Great seeing you, Dave, as always. Have to get in touch. Have to sit down and talk. Take care, guys. Bye now.